Hello everyone, welcome back to the Daily Nature Journal. I'm back at Holyford Woods again, and it's now June, and you can see that the woods are about as green as they'll ever be. So we're going to go and have a little walk around, and I'm going to see what has changed since we were last here in May. This is going to be an extended video as usual on my Patreon, so if you'd like to see more of that, check out the links in the description below. There's a lot of rooks that have been nesting in that tall tree up there. And as usual with rooks, they're kind of chattering away and flying around together. This path into the woods that was so muddy earlier in the year is now rock solid and has started to grass over too. The vegetation has grown a lot taller. We're walking through an avenue of stinging nettles and buttercups and docks. The elder's in flower here. And these are delicious. You can pick elderflowers and just eat them. Get a good handful and you can get the taste of elderflower cordial. And these will be making a lot of wonderful elderberries that we'll be using later in the year to make ink. This is a very sunny patch. We've got a lot of bramble in flower that's being visited by bees. This is going to produce lots of wonderful blackberries to eat a little later in the season. And haven't these foxgloves grown big? They were starting to really grow taller in the last video in May, but now they're flowering and they're starting to produce seeds too. All of these little seeds after the flowers have passed. If you look up the stem, the earliest flowers mature, but it continues to grow and continues to flower. This one's much taller than me, must be about 7 foot. There's a lovely red admiral. Here we've got some hedge woundwort, very popular with the bees and growing well among all of these nettles here. Lots of foxgloves in this meadow. Until very recently, a very tall dead ash tree, just mostly the trunk, that stood here. But it came down, I think, last winter. And now this is just a clearing on its own. It's excellent in here for insect life. These are magnificent ferns, sir. One of the things I'd really like to do is get better at identifying ferns. I don't know what these are, but I know that they're not bracken. And they do catch the light wonderfully. Here's a plant that likes to have its feet wet. It reminds me of the speedwell. You can see how the flower stem is emerging from the join of the leaf to the stem here. And there's several flower stems, one on each side all the way up, and large leaves with smaller leaves on each flower stem. This is the sort of information that's going to help me when I want to identify the plant again when I get home. So you can make notes of this and then use that information later. It's okay to not know everything you're looking at straight away, and if you don't want to identify it at all, that's fine too. Light coming through vegetation in this way is one of the main things that inspires me as an artist. I can stand and look at this for hours. There's several little holes here I wonder who they belong to. My guess is on mice. The self-hill's now looking at its best. This one's quite an easy one to identify. And see the little tower that's made on the inside, and the flowers just emerge from that. Self-hill can vary massively in size, but it always has this sort of characteristic. Here among the buttercups is this delicate little flower. It's Herb Bennet, also known as wood avens. It's similar in some ways to the buttercup, but you can see that it's got these much longer green points here, and it always produces a little fluffy seed as it finishes. Got some more yellow flowers here. Here's the wood avens again. Here's one that hasn't flowered yet. And then all of these little yellow stars. These are the yellow pimpernel. They're pretty common in this woodland. There's something monumental and structural about the big foxgloves. These two are like twin spires. This is the 6th visit that we've had on this channel to this woodlands, and I've been coming once a month for the last 6 months. All of the links to the other videos are in the description below, and all of these videos are extended on my Patreon. So if you want some more identification notes and just longer videos, more from this woodland, come and check out my Patreon. And I will continue to come here making these monthly videos for the rest of the year. In these shadier parts of the woodland, they don't get as quickly replaced. They don't get covered over by bracken, not to the same extent as in the open paths. And here's the end of the wild garlic. See the little heart-shaped seeds that it produces. Almost everything here under the canopy is finished now. And that's because the trees have opened out and shaded it from all of the good light now that their leaves are out. So this will slowly decay away. It's left mostly to the ferns. I find actually midsummer to be a little bit stifling in the woods. Gone is the kind of expansive openness that you get in spring, with the smaller flowers all opening up and lending colour, and the trees just about opening above. Now it's as if every single bit of space is filled with bracken, brambles, nettles, foxgloves, and everything's competing and trying to get to the light and be bigger and stronger and more verdant than anything else. I guess spring is more like a race, whereas summer is more like a fight. And at this stage in the summer, it's as if everything's just preparing. But we don't have the fruits of the labour yet, we don't have the seeds yet. But the berries, just this sort of oppressive fight for space. I wonder what you think about summer. Do you ever have this sort of impression, or is it different where you are in the world? I'd like to hear about that in the comments today. Here's the benches where I normally sit, and I have been sitting for these previous videos. They're completely swamped with vegetation now, but I think I can still get in there to lie down and look at the sky. I'm really happy to see that the ash tree that I was worried was dead has come into leaf. So now I've got all of the green that I remember here. This is cuckoo spit. It's on the garlic mustard and the docks here. It's not in fact the spit of cuckoos. It's called that because it looks like spit and it always appears at the same time as the cuckoos are calling. It's actually the froth created by froghoppers. It's a tiny little bug. They're harmless to plants, but they produce this, lay their eggs, and their larvae are in there. It kind of protects them from predators. There's a lot of it here. They really like the garlic mustard when it comes into pod. So this is the garlic mustard that I was eating in the earlier videos. Now it's in seed and it's created these long pods. And the froghoppers rather like to breed on these. There's something almost autumnal about this top path. There's a lot of ferns here, finishing leaves. There's the end of the bluebells. A lot of things that have finished. The dog's mercury is now being eaten up. But there are a few signs that summer's still going on. Here we've got a stinking iris. The birds are still singing and the trees are still in leaf. I think this path is one of the ones where you get a lot of spring vegetation. And then when that's finished, it's almost a bit sad and the summer vegetation can't rival what we see earlier in the year. This wonderful rose bush here. So many flowers on it. It's just growing here by the side of the path. So I really hope you enjoyed this lovely walk around the woods in June. I certainly did. Seeing all the foxgloves and the bees and the butterflies, it's really brightens my day. I'd love to hear what you thought of today's video. As always, please leave me a comment. Liking the video and subscribing if you haven't already also really helps me to grow the channel. Thank you so much for watching. Next time I'm going to be back in the studio creating journal pages for June. I'll see you next time.